Hello everyone and welcome to the Noble Way. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to score the coveted virtual queue for Remy's Ratatouille adventure. Alright, so let's get started. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is the newest, hottest ride at Epcot in Disney World. So getting a ticket for this ride can be pretty difficult. It is similar to Rise of the Resistance a few months ago. Trying to score a ticket for Rise of the Resistance was really difficult. The only way that you can get into this ride is through the virtual queue. They have recently added the Lightning Pass that you can also get a ticket for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure by paying an additional fee. But if you want to score that coveted, guaranteed virtual pass without paying an additional fee, this is going to be the way to do it. So as I said, if you're familiar with how to get the Rise of the Resistance virtual queue, it's going to be similar, but there are some differences that I want to walk through. So let's start out with the times. The times to actually get the virtual queue for Remy's is 7 a.m. and 1 o'clock p.m., both Eastern time. The 7 o'clock pass, you can do at home. You can do at your hotel. It doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to be in the park to get access to that. At the 1 o'clock p.m., you actually have to be in the park. So if you don't score the 7 a.m. one and you want to go for the 1 p.m. one, you have to be physically in the Epcot park in order to actually score the ticket. The other thing to know is that you have to have a valid park ticket for Epcot, and you have to have a reservation for the park in order to score this ticket. So just like Rise of the Resistance, those virtual tickets, they're going to be gone within about 5 seconds of them going live. So you have a very small window of opportunity to actually get these tickets. All right, so let's start with the most important thing out of all the things that you're going to need to do in order to get this virtual pass, and that is your internet speed. It does not matter how fast you push that button, how great of a job you do from refreshing it and making sure everything's right. If your internet speed is super slow, you're going to have a tough time getting these tickets. So just know that ahead of time. What I recommend doing is downloading something called the Ookla, it's O-O-K-L-A, the Ookla Speed Test. You can download that on any app store and download it onto your phone to test out your internet connection. You can also do this from a computer. You don't have to download the app. You can go to Speed Test by Ookla, and it will actually tell you how fast your internet access is. So I'm going to pop up on the screen the speed test results of my internet when I'm scoring these tickets from my home. And as you can see, it's pretty good. So let me kind of break it down for you. My speed test from a download perspective, which is the most important number of all the numbers that are going to be on that screen, is your download speed. And you can see my download speed was at 568 megabits per second. Just to give you an idea of a good download speed, the US average download speed is about 30 megabits per second. Mine was at 568, so I'm well above the average. I will tell you that good is about 50 to 100 megabits per second for this type of activity. Great would be somewhere in the 200 megabits per second realm, but you don't really need that high of a speed. 200 megabits per second is really good for things like streaming 4K video. So if you're doing a lot of streaming at 4K resolution, like super high resolution, 200 megabits is going to be a good speed. Obviously, we're just kind of clicking a button on a web browser or an app, and we're not having to download a lot of data. So you don't need that high of a speed, but you're going to want a decent speed. So I would aim to be somewhere at least around the 50 mark to 100 for megabits per second for download. Don't panic if you're not, but just know that if you're in the low range, the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, you may have a difficult time getting the ticket. The US average upload speed, which is the other number on there, which is also somewhat important, is about 30 megabits per second. And you can see my speed was 224, so I'm well above that average. Again, upload isn't necessarily as big of a deal. Anything above 10 is going to be a good speed, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then the last number you can look at is the ping. The ping number is in milliseconds, and a good average ping is going to be between 10 and 30 milliseconds. Because that's essentially, the ping is essentially the response time when you send something out to another server. If you're sending something to Disney, like you clicking a button, It's the response time in sending it and getting a response back. And so you don't want a slow ping because it could take a long time for sort of that packet retrieval to happen. So ping is a good number that you want to shoot for is around 10 to 30. Anything over 150 milliseconds, you're going to experience some lag and you're going to increase your risk as far as not getting the tickets. All right, so just to recap the numbers, your download number that you're looking for is going to be somewhere between 50 and 100 or above. Your upload is going to be anything above 10 megabits per second. And then your ping, anywhere between 10 to 50 maybe, is probably going to be a good number. Anything over 150, you're going to have some lag. So what's next? What I do is I would recommend using this speed test to test your numbers on Wi-Fi first. So if you're in the Disney parks and you're on their Wi-Fi, I would do a speed test with the Wi-Fi. And then see what your results are. And then compare them to those numbers to see, am I in a good range or not? If you're not, then I would go ahead and test the LTE. So turn your Wi-Fi off, go with your LTE, your 4G, 3G, whatever you happen to have, and test that. And see which one's faster. Whichever one is faster, that's the one I would recommend going with. Now, I will warn you that even though your numbers may look good prior to 7 a.m. or prior to 1 p.m., there's probably going to be a lot of other people trying to do the same thing at exactly the same time. So if you are on LTE and you're in the park and you're around a lot of other people, they're all going to be doing this and it's going to tank your speed most likely because they're all fighting for the sort of the same bandwidth in that space. If you're on the Wi-Fi, say in your hotel, or you're on the Disney Wi-Fi in the parks, the same thing's going to happen. Everybody's going to be competing, and so it's going to slow down. So I recommend being on your own Wi-Fi somewhere, if you're in a home or somewhere where you don't have to compete with people, that's better. Or LTE, if you're on LTE, try to find a space where you're not around a lot of people to try to get a little bit better bandwidth. But that's just a warning that even though your numbers may look good now, they could slow down a little bit when it actually gets close to 7 and 1 o'clock, as a lot of people are trying to do the same thing as you. All right, so those are the numbers. That's the most important thing that you need to do to score the tickets. So now let's talk about what you actually are going to see in the app, because there are a few screens, a few buttons that you're going to need to click, and you don't want to be confused and not sure what to click and what to do right at 7 o'clock in the morning or 1 p.m. because there's only a 5-second window to get those tickets to get into that virtual queue, and you don't want to be fumbling with things. So I'm going to show it up on the screen, and I'm going to kind of walk you through the screens and the buttons that you're going to need to click. The first thing you need to do, download the Disney My Experience app on your phone if you don't already have it, or pull up the Disney My Experience on your web browser and locate the virtual queue area. On the Disney My Experience app, it's going to be right on the homepage. You just need to scroll until you see Join Virtual Queue. And once you find that sort of virtual queue section on the homepage, there should be a button that just says Join Virtual Queue. You click that, and that'll take you into the first screen. On the Disney My Experience page within the web browser, you should be able to find a very similar Join Virtual Queue section, and it will have similar screens. For the sake of this video, we're going to show the app version, not the website version. Once you click that first Join Virtual Queue button to get into the virtual queue section for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, you're going to see a screen that asks you to confirm your party before you even get into the place where you actually can join the queue. This is a great change from the previous version of this. Rise of the Resistance had a slightly different mechanism where you actually had to wait until 7 and then click a button, and then it would ask you to confirm your party and choose who's in your party, and then you had to click that, and then you would finally get added into the queue. And that's caused all kinds of problems for people because they would get into that screen, they'd click the button, it would ask them to confirm their party, they'd see somebody was wrong, like something was wrong, like the wrong person was in their party, they'd panic, and then they'd be like, I don't know, and they try to fix it right away, and by the time that they got to click the actual button to join, the time was over and they missed it. So it was a real pain in the butt. So it became this sort of thing that was like, no matter who's in your party, no matter what that says, just smash the button until you're in the virtual queue, and then you can fix the party later. If you go to the park, talk to a cast member, explain to them that your party's messed up, and they'll fix it for you, and they'll still let you all on the ride. And they'll still do that even today with Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, but this new version is much better because it actually asks you to confirm your party before you actually get to that screen. So on that screen, select who's in your party, fix it right there, click it, and then you'll go to the next screen, which I'll show on the screen here what that looks like. And again, don't worry if the party's not completely correct. If for some reason something changes, don't panic. You can just ignore it and wait until you're at the park to fix it. Or you can fix it now ahead of time before we actually get to the part where you need to click the join button. All right? So once you've confirmed your party, on the next screen, this is the money screen. This is the screen that you need to sit on until it hits 7 a.m. or 1 p.m., depending on which one you're going for. So let's talk about 7 a.m. So you're on this screen and you need to just chill on this screen. So I would recommend getting on this screen, getting all that party stuff taken care of at least 5 to 10 minutes before 7 a.m. So get the right party selected, get onto this screen that I'm showing on right now. And then you would just chill. And at the bottom of that screen, you see refresh. And it's this white refresh button, and it's just going to sit there. Now, if you're on an iPhone, I'm not 100% on an Android, you should be able to see your clock in the upper left-hand corner while you're on this screen. I am telling you, you do not need to do all these tips and tricks that people are telling you about go open like a web browser or a second phone and get on the world clock to make sure that it's down to the millisecond. You don't need to do that. iPhones, phones, they're all connected to the world clocks. They are all updated correctly. Trust me, the time on your phone is the most accurate you're going to find. Just stick with that. So what I would do is make sure you are sitting pretty right on this screen with the refresh button and just watch your clock. And when it gets to 6:59, just start counting in your head 60 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just start counting in your head roughly. It doesn't have to be perfect, but so you at least have an idea of maybe how far it is until it tips to that 7 o'clock. As soon as you see, and I did want to mention, there's 2 ways to refresh on this page. You can click that refresh button, click, or you can pull down on your screen, pull it down and then let go, and it will actually refresh the page. I do not recommend the pull down the screen mechanism. That takes longer. You lose time on that. I recommend the refresh button. That's the better way to go. It's also a guaranteed, if you don't pull the screen down far enough, you might not refresh it. The refresh button, clicking that is a guaranteed refresh. That's my method that I use. That's the one I would recommend. So as soon as you see that clock tick over to 7 o'clock, punch that refresh button. And it should refresh the screen. And if it's ready for the virtual queue, that refresh button in the same exact location, as you can see on the screen, will change to actually say join virtual queue as a blue button. So it goes from a white refresh button to a blue join virtual queue button. Click that button immediately. Don't worry about anything else on the screen. Don't look at anything else. Just refresh. As soon as you see that blue button in the same spot, boom, you don't even need to read it. If it's blue and it looks like it says join virtual queue, doesn't matter, just push it again, boom, and you're done. That's all you got to do. And if you've done it right, on the next screen, which you see here, it'll tell you your boarding group number. The blue button turns to done, which means you're in. If you did something wrong or you didn't get the ticket, you might get an error message. You might get something that says something went wrong. You won't see that you got in a boarding group, and most likely it's too late. You can go back and try to do this again. Maybe the internet timed out, something went wrong, but most likely the tickets are gone already, but you can give it a shot. As you can see in the video, I got boarding group 9. I usually get anything between boarding group 4 and boarding group 10 with my internet speeds and using this method. And so that usually means that for me, if the park opens at 9 o'clock, my boarding group gets called at 9:10, 9:15, pretty early in the day, and then there's usually no wait. Another thing that I would mention is have multiple people trying. So if you have a party of say 3, 4 people, whatever, that's going to ride this, and maybe you have multiple phones and they're all connected and you're all using the same Disney My Experience account, I would have multiple people trying because the more people trying, the more likelihood. If you have 2 people trying to do this on the same account, only one of you is going to get the ticket. So if you follow this method and you see something went wrong, whoever you're with that just did it, they may have actually gotten the boarding pass. It doesn't mean you missed out. If you both don't get anything and you get an error, then you probably missed out. So when my wife and I do this, we both do it at the same time. And sometimes I'm like, oh, it says something went wrong. And I look over and she's like, I got it, or vice versa. So Don't panic if you see that when you have multiple people trying, but I do recommend having more than one person trying to get this pass. So you can do this one person on the website version, one person on the app version, it doesn't matter, or you can have both people on app versions. Now, once you've got your pass, all you gotta do, go to the park and have a good time. Show up, so just keep checking that virtual queue. When it tells you an approximate wait time, as you can see on the screen, it means from that moment right then when you're looking at the screen. So if it says 160 minutes, that means, 160 minutes from right now is approximately when your boarding group will get called. It may change over the day, because if they're slow at boarding or there's breakdowns or things like that, it will adjust. You just need to kind of keep checking it periodically through the day to see if it's getting close to your boarding group number. When it does get to your boarding group number, you have about an hour window. So if it calls your boarding group, you have about an hour window. So don't panic if you have, if you're in line for a ride or you have a dining reservation. Just explain that to the cast members. They'll let you come after that hour window. But I would recommend trying to come within that actual hour window as best you can. And then when you get there, you'll just get into line. And then you may have to wait 10 minutes. You may have to wait 45 minutes, depending on how long that line is, to actually ride the ride. And then when you get up to sort of the kiosks, you'll just need to scan your Magic Band or your park ticket, your annual pass, whatever, on the little readers, and it will confirm that you do have a virtual ticket, and you go right in. If something goes wrong, there are cast members there to help you out. They've got little iPad things where they can check and they can get you in if for some reason something goes wonky. Now, if you missed it at 7 a.m., you do have another chance at 1 p.m. And I will tell you, 1 p.m. is much easier to get usually than the 7 a.m. So if you don't get the 7 a.m., don't panic. You got another shot at 1 p.m. Just go to the park, enjoy your day. When it gets close to 1 p.m., follow all the things that I just told you again. And it is usually easier to get the 1 p.m. one. I will, however, warn you that I have been there at 1 p.m. and gotten the boarding pass, and it gave me a 5-hour return window. So 5 hours from the time I got the ticket to when I got to ride the ride. And I was kind of like, wow, I've already been here for like 5 or 6 hours. I don't know if I want to wait another 5 or 6 hours for my window. And so that's just a warning that you may have to wait quite a while before your boarding group gets called if you do get the 1 p.m. Ticket. All right, so that's it. I hope this video has helped you. If so, subscribe, share it with friends, comment below if this worked for you, or if you have any other suggestions, or if something didn't work, I will amend the video. But I have used this method many, many times with slower connection speeds than the one that I have in this video, actually. And it has worked every time. I have never not gotten, I don't know if that's a double negative, but I have always gotten a boarding pass using this method every single time without exception. So good luck. I hope you're able to get your virtual pass. The ride is a great ride. It's a lot of fun. But again, if you are not successful, you do now at least have the option that you can pay an additional fee, which I believe is $11 per person to ride the ride. It may have variable pricing depending on how busy it gets. They may change that number. But right now it's $11 per person. But good luck. Hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, hit the notifications, new videos every day. Thank you for joining us. The Noble Way is the easy way.